Hello everyone, and welcome to session 2. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you all, and welcome to session 2 at the EvidenceBased conference here in Porto. Due to a technical problem, you won't be able to see me speaking, only a picture. My name is Lars Egland. I'm a member of the board, and I'm going to share this session. But not seeing me is a minor problem because the main thing is to see the presenters. And we'll start with Heather McMullen. The next present about collective collections, more urgent than ever. Heather McMullen is an associate university librarian at Queen's University in Canada, with the responsibility for the leadership and the direction of information resources across the university, and shares accountability for the academic mission, strategic directions, and administration of the library, including budget and personnel. Her portfolio includes collection development and strategy, sustainably scholarly publishing practices, print stewardship projects, shared print across university, interlibrary loan, and the library's role in support of the Queen's University quality assurance processes. Heather holds a Master of Library and Information Science from the University of Western Ontario and an Honours Bachelor of Arts from the University of Waterloo. In her presentation, she will examine recent development in collective collections in North America via the intersection with resource sharing, digitization, preservation, and access, and the challenge of overlap analysis, data matching, interoperability, and required librarian competencies. And these issues will be examined within the context of COVID-19 and temporary library closures. Heather, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will go ahead and share my screen. And can everyone see the screen now? And can you hear me okay? Great. Okay, well, thank you for the introduction, Lars, and for the opportunity to present at the 41st Annual Conference of the International Association of University Libraries. I'm honored to be among colleagues from around the world. I will be speaking on collections and intersections, and look forward to your comments and questions at the end of the presentation. In Canada, it is customary to provide a land acknowledgement at the beginning of gathering. So I would like to acknowledge that Queen's University is situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. I'm grateful to be able to live, learn, and play on these lands. Queen's University was founded in 1841 and is comprised of 6 library locations and 4 cross-library divisions with approximately 110 staff. The photo on the left is of our largest library, Stauffer, and on the right, Douglas Library, our oldest and original library building. Queen's has approximately 26,000 students at all levels, from undergraduate to PhD students, and we are located in Kingston, Ontario, in between Toronto and Montreal. I arrived at Queen's in the fall of 2015 in the new role of Associate University Librarian with a portfolio for collections and information resources. It was an interesting time to begin a new position with several drivers at play, which I will outline, along with actions that we have taken as a team in the last 5 years to address these drivers. I will end with observations on the actions taken and within the added lens of COVID-19, and some concluding thoughts to consider for the future. One of our drivers is space pressures. Our largest library, as I said, Stauffer, is for the humanities and social sciences, and it has not had a culture of reading. That may be in part because the library did not have its own off-site storage facility. By 2015, it was becoming a big challenge to add new items and to implement a new library and archives master plan with increased emphasis on student spaces. Another driver was financial. In 2015 and 16, over 44% of our total acquisitions budget went to 5 big deals: And as you know, big deals are bundles of journal packages from large publishers. I'll come back to the 36% later in the presentation. As well, over 80% of our acquisition expenses are in US dollars. And from 2014 to 15, the value of the Canadian dollar dropped over 19%, necessitating a reprioritization of collection decisions and a move to a deficit situation. As well, other drivers included an increase in many new academic programs in subject areas that were new for our collecting and involved a high level of multidisciplinarity. In 2015, Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission issued 94 calls to action in light of Canada's residential school system, its resulting intergenerational trauma, and damaging legacy to Indigenous cultures, for which the residential schools were meant to eradicate. Queen's University responded with a Truth and Reconciliation Task Force and launched a plan with 24 of the national calls to action that are applicable to higher education settings. All of the units on campus, including the library, report on our progress annually. The library also supports the ongoing efforts stemming from the Principals Implementation Committee on Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion. This committee was established at Queen's in 2016 to improve actions and outcomes from over 20 years of work on equity, diversity, and inclusion at the university, yet continuing challenges on and off campus persist to this day in making meaningful change. And finally, the Ontario Council of University Libraries, our provincial consortium, to which Queen's is a member, launched a multi-year project for a shared library services platform, ALMA, or we branded Omni. So all of these drivers, space, financial, new academic programs, truth and reconciliation, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and technology, upended traditional collection practices and informed a path forward. So while the drivers that I just discussed occurred relatively simultaneously, our Vice Provost and University Librarian at the time, Martha Whitehead, who is now Vice President for the Harvard Library and University Librarian, established a library working group to craft an information resources vision in consultation with the Senate Library Committee and Library Advisory Committees for each faculty. You can see here the results of this overarching vision and the guiding principles that underpin it. So now, before I go into the actions taken in response to the drivers, I wanted to take a slight detour. In preparation for this presentation and the accompanying paper, I decided to reflect on our actions using the insightful frameworks put forward by OCLC and Ithaca SNR, among others, on the concepts of collective collections or network collections, network level collections, and the citations are included in the paper. While we did not start our work with Lorcan Dempsey's facilitated collections model, it became apparent when conducting research for this paper that his model is very, very useful and a lens for reflecting on our work over the past 5 years in response to drivers, and it helps us to assess where we've been and where we might want to go in the future. So when I talk about the actions taken, I will base it on this model, talking about owned or licensed collections, resource sharing, which he calls the borrowed collection in this model, shared print and digitization, and what I call open scholarship that he has as the evolving scholarly record. So for our collections that are available locally, either owned or licensed, the library launched a multi-year modifying acquisition practices project, including participating in a national journal usage project coordinated by our national consortium called the Canadian Research Knowledge Network, and led by Vincent Lafrivière, who is a professor of information science at the Université de Montréal, University of Montreal, and Canada Research Chair on the transformations of scholarly communications. The journal usage project involved 3 metrics: usage data, citation data, and survey data from Queen's faculty and graduate students on the value of specific journals to their research and teaching. These results informed our unbundling of a big deal package and a pilot of reprints desk to deliver online journal articles to patrons in a timely manner. Our approach was and continues to be a commitment to provide our members with the information that they need while serving as responsible stewards of public funds. We could not continue with our current model of 44% of acquisition budgets going to big deals and address the new drivers and demands for flexibility in meeting identified user needs for new academic programs and creating inclusive collections without taking action. Preliminary results indicate that the unbundling project pilot resulted in a more flexible budget and a decrease in our big deal spend to 36% of the budget rather than 44%. We were also able to invest in new information needs and open initiatives while continuing to meet the existing needs for journal articles outside of the big deal. The library also focused our attention on interlibrary loan and resource sharing operations to expand availability of information resources for our patrons where the library could not purchase or license the materials or it just wasn't feasible. We moved interlibrary loan staff and operations into the Information Resources Division to leverage synergies with collection development and the provision of information resources. We implemented a soft launch with our Ontario Collaborative Futures partners of the Alma Fulfillment Network for print ILL. The full launch is scheduled for the beginning of August. And with the Alma Fulfillment Network, other libraries in the network are like branch libraries, and users can easily request materials without complicated ILL forms to fill out. I also served as co-chair of the Ontario Working Group on Collections and the Future of Resource Sharing to ensure that ILL strategic directions at the consortial level consider all aspects of collection, especially shared print, digitization, preservation, and access. We also took advantage of a free COVID offer to trial Rapid ILL as a borrower for 3 months. Rapid ILL is a platform for resource sharing of electronic items. Built by staff at the Colorado State University Libraries and purchased by Ex Libris in 2019. We subsequently subscribed to Rapid in 2021, so just this year, and integrated with Alma Resource Sharing. However, despite these efforts, the library closures brought on by COVID-19 demonstrated the restrictions on ILL in the digital age, namely the inability to lend full ebooks and legal uncertainties of adopting a controlled digital lending model. I understand that our colleagues in public libraries are having similar challenges to defending their rights to lend materials in the digital age without new limitations added by vendors to the terms of service. The library also began thinking about shared print before 2015 as a way to address off-site storage problems and collaborated with 4 other Ontario University libraries to form the Keep It Downsview partnership, leveraging the University of Toronto's purpose-built library storage facility north of the city. Joining Keep It Downsview allowed the group to become part of a much larger network of North American shared print programs and an institutional member of the recently launched Partnership for Shared Book Collections. This perspective provides an interesting network view on all of the connections of shared print with other library operations, such as access, resource sharing, digitization, and preservation. Other important players in this space are the Center for Research Libraries and Hati Trust, which we joined in 2019, both committed to long-term print stewardship of collections in print and digital formats. In Canada, we are also looking forward to next steps stemming from the Canadian Collective Print Strategy Working Group's report and recommendations published in the fall of 2020, and the call for a formation of a national shared print network. And open scholarship. The library has an open scholarship services division, which supports Queen's affiliates to publish open access journals using the Open Journal system, to deposit articles in our QSpace open repository, and to share research data in the Queen's instance of Dataverse, which is hosted on OCUL, Ontario Council of University Libraries, Scholars Portal, which is a shared provincial academic library infrastructure. The library funds an annual grant for Queen's faculty to create or adapt an open education resource. And we recently enabled access to Unpaywall's vast listing of open access articles in our discovery layer. So in response to the different drivers, the library has taken action to rethink collections while ensuring that our patrons have access to the information that they need for research, teaching, and learning. By looking beyond local print and online collections in traditional ILL, we are engaging with other groups that are considering these intersections of access, ownership, resource sharing, shared print, digitization and preservation, and collection management at scale. While these intersections are actually more complex than portrayed on this slide, the key is to coordinate them rather than approach them in silos. And so a few observations. While we have a strong commitment to open, we also have a companion commitment to available. I like to think that resource sharing is having its moment and will continue to rise in prominence alongside other library services in this new approach to shared collection stewardship at scale. Paradoxically, this examination has caused us to become more interdependent in some areas and more independent in others. For the former, our participation in Keep It Down's view opened new avenues for collaboration with other shared print programs in North America and a common purpose to develop policies, infrastructure, and services to manage a less duplicative but critical corpus of print materials residing in libraries across the continent. Our provincial consortium's launch of a shared library services platform may well lead to deeper collaborations, such as collaborative collection development as one example. However, we felt it necessary to move forward independently on Rapid ILL, the subscription, to meet our patrons' needs for fast online delivery of journal articles and book chapters, especially in the context of our Modifying Acquisition Practices project to unbundle a big deal. With the advent of new engagements alongside existing ones, it's worth considering our investment in all of these groups. It is possible that the major shifts we are seeing with collections require these nimble mission-focused groups to respond appropriately. This may also be natural outgrowths of a movement from local to the network level and reflective of a desired state to focus local efforts on distinctive or unique items and how to connect them to a larger shared collection. Another observation, may not be unique to our library, is the lack of required staff skills in data analysis. To make sound data-driven decisions, we need a different skill set to produce complex overlap and retention analysis, modeling scenarios, cost analysis reports, and visualizations for maximum insights and impact. So in conclusion, while the scholarly ecosystem continues to change, library collections remain an integral component of academic library service. Our library will continue to rethink how local needs can be met within this broader framework in consultation with patrons and a growing list of trusted partners, and by monitoring developments such as the Big Ten Academic Alliance's Big Collection Initiative for Collective Collections. Experimentation and innovation have guided our approach alongside an information resources vision and related principles. It was very useful to have Lorcan Dempsey's facilitated collections model to frame and assess our work to date and plan as an institution with other consortial partners. Developments in shared infrastructures, policies, and analytics will be essential to move towards more radical collaboration. As COVID-19 has demonstrated, timely access to information in all formats is valued by our patrons, and prolonged library closures did have a negative impact on many of our patrons. Fortunately, the library was able to provide access to the HathiTrust Emergency Temporary Access Service for a portion of our in-copyright print collections, but this would not have been possible without the years of dedicated work by HathiTrust and its founding members to operationalize the bold idea of creating HathiTrust. Similar bold leadership and work will be required to leverage all of the possibilities of large-scale print and digital corpora. Resource sharing will be foundational to the success of these plans, as will be reclaiming libraries' rights to lend materials in a digital age using a controlled digital lending framework and loaning full ebooks via interlibrary loan. Thank you for your attention. I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you very much, Heather. There is no questions in the discussion, but and we have spent our time. So, if any of the audience have any questions, you can also post them later, and Heather will answer. I think we'll go on with the presentation from Louis Houle, which is really in the same field. Louis have been Director of Collections at the McGill Library since 2013, where he leads and manages the operation of the collection department and the Interlibrary loan and document delivery unit. And in his presentation, he will report on a comparison of ebooks purchases between the big deal and the EBA models over a 7-year period between 2014 and 2020 from the following major commercial publishers: Elsevier, Springer, and Wiley. Louis, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll try to share my screen if I can find the right place.
Yep.
You can see it now?
That's it. Yep.
All right, sorry about that. I'll put a... Okay, let's start. Sorry about this. This study is a comparison of different EBA models against an all-in purchase model of ebooks from 3 different major publishers, namely Wiley, Springer, and Elsevier, for a period of 7 years between 2014 and 2020. Basically, McGill, we are still purchasing all ebooks from many publishers, and we're not doing it right now in EBA. So just want to see, have we done the right thing? What are the pros and cons of EBA against all-in, and based on cost, not only cost, but user statistics also as well. Okay, just some quick facts for McGill University. I'm not sure everybody knows McGill University. McGill University is in Montreal, province of Quebec in Canada, Eastern Canada. And we are celebrating this year our 200th anniversary.
Louis, we just see the first slide.
Oh.
You're not in presenter mode.
I thought I was. Sorry.
But
now I'm is it working now? You see this the first slide also still?
Yeah, now we see the quick facts.
Okay.
You're not in presenting mode, but
no,
that works.
I thought I was. Sorry about that. I just click on this presenting mode. I'll try again. Slideshow. That's what I see right now. Slideshow right now. Anyway, we'll move on. Yeah. And so we have 1,730 faculty spread over 10 faculties in 12 schools on 2 campuses. McGill created the first faculty of medicine in Canada in 1829. You see number of degrees granted in 2019-20, just over 9,000 from more than 300 study programs. The research funding in 2018-19 was just above $606 million Canadian, and we have an overall budget of $1.44 billion. The enrollment last year, just to give you an idea about the size of McGill, the enrollment, student enrollment in the last fall consisted of 39,736 students, with 6 to 9% of the students were undergraduate students, 26% graduate students, 3.4% for residents and fellows, and 1.6% postdocs. McGill is one institution that have the most international students in all Canada. We have close to 47% of our students are from the province of Quebec, 23% close to that from other parts of Canada, and close to 31% are international students, mainly outside of Canada. We have close to 19% are French speaking, 46% English speaking, and 35% in representing other languages from about 147 countries. Okay. This is the ranking of McGill, to give you an idea. We've been ranked number 1 in Canada for the last 16 consecutive years by the McLean survey.
Louis, no, I think you'll take the 4th slide.
The slides are not following, or?
You're on the second slide now. Yeah.
You see the fourth slide now?
Yep.
Okay, I'll stay in this mode. There's something strange happening there. Sorry about that. McGill is number 31st in the world based on the QS World University Ranking in 2021. 40th place from the Times Higher Education World University Rankings 2021, and 78th position from the Shanghai Academic Ranking of World Universities. Okay. So our collection budget is just above $22 million Canadian. 73% of the budget is for recurrent costs items such as journals, of course, print, online, major e-resources databases, and 16% of the budget is tied to ebooks, and just 11% for print monograph. Okay, as you can imagine, there are almost as many evidence-based model acquisition model that there are publishers. There are so many variations and flavors amongst all of them. Even within the same publisher, you have different flavors also as well. So today we'll be looking at Elsevier, Springer, and Wiley. Elsevier, AB is called Evidence-Based Selection EBS, and there are two options available to them, to us for that. The all titles, no exclusions, or the most recent 5 years, like this one for 2021, 2017 to 2021. Both options can be licensed for 1 year up to 3 years. If you take the multi-year option, you'll have a price increases included in that over the years. And each year, the EBS is renewed. The start year will remain the same, but then you have a new year. Like in 2022, you will have 6 years instead of 7 years, 5 years, sorry. The amount of money you have to spend will depend on the size of the institution and the collections you select, all titles or most recent 5 years. The list price is also different based on the institution's FTE, small institution, medium, or large. And the ebooks, of course, are purchased at list price. For a Springer, institutions can select between 4 models right now. Their EBA model is called Access and Select. You have the Basic, Plus, Smart, or Premium. Plus is the only one with a subscription model with a 4 years moving wall. With Plus, Smart, and Premium, you get access to all Springer's 21 subject collection for the 4 most recent copyright years. With Plus, Smart, and Premium, every year that you renew, you can add an additional year. And of course, at the end of the year, you have to send a list of selected titles that you purchase. The pricing is also tied to the type and size of institution. Like for institutions, like McGill, the price of the collections run from $6,571 to $35,280, with an average of $18,000 per collection for the basic model. For the Access Only Plus model, the price would have been $377,226. For Smart, the price going up to $421,658. And for the Premium, the price goes up to $674,653. The average cost of the ebooks range from $280 per title, and the textbook price at $469. Same thing with Elsevier also as well. They are free unlimited users, no automatic triggers. No Interlibrary loan is allowed during the EBA, except for the premium model where you're allowed to lend full ebooks. And for the My Copy, the print-on-demand service, is available for both the Smart and Premium models. What is a bit similar also as well, you can select all years, 10 years, 5 years, or 3 years of collections for any combination of them by subject or predefined broad discipline. Deposit amount also as well is based by the size of your institution, by number of FTE, up to 10,000 K, from 10,001 to 40,000 students, or over 40,001 students. Okay, let's see here Usage statistics, McGill. I'll have a lot of data. You'll see. Not be able to see all of them, but you have an idea to see the usage stats and compared to the ABA. So with Elsevier, look at this slide here. This gives us the number of ebooks used at least once for every single year during the study. In dark blue here, it's the copyright year 2014. And red is 2015, green 2016, purple 2017, light blue 2018, orange 2019, and gray 2020. So as you can see now with Elsevier, if we look at the dark blue, the 2014 collection year, usage year after year. So in 2014, 59% of all the titles have been used at least once. In 2015, for collection year 2014, 63% of the titles have been used once, at least once. In 2016, 66% of the titles have been used. In 2017, 58%. In 2018, 59%. And in 2019, 63%. And finally, in 2020, 62% of the titles have been used. So we have similar patterns for all the other years. It varies a lot from copyright to copyright, but they're very similar for the number of titles used every year. Okay, if we look now again, it's the number of ebooks, the percentage of number of ebooks used at least once, but year after year to see how many titles after 1 year of usage, 2 years, 3 years, up to 7 years of usage, how many unique titles have been used from the total collection. If we look again from the 2014 collection year, the dark blue, year 1 in 2014, 59% of the titles have been used at least once. After 2 years, that number goes up to 79%. After 3 years, 90%. After 4 years, 92%. After 5 years, 94%. After 6 years, 95%. And after 7 years, 96% of all the ebooks from the collection year 2014 have been used at least once. So we can see after year 1, we have very similar data usage from all collection years in the high 50s to the low 60s. And after 2 years, this section here, year 2, over 3/4 of the titles for each collection years, 2014 to 2019, have been used at least once. And if we go after 3 years, we're reaching 90% of all the titles have been used at least once for collection years 2014 to 2018. Now, the importance about whether it's EBA and also as well buying the whole collection is to see the usage over time. A number of times we cannot predict how many times or for how many years each title could be used or will be used. So this gives you an idea with Elsevier of the number of years each title had been used over a span of 7 years, depending on the copyright year. If we look at the copyright year again, 2014 in dark blue, of course, 96% of all the titles have been used at least in 1 year, from 2014 to 2020. If we look, 87% of the titles have been used in 2 different years, again within 2014 to 2020. It goes down to 76% of all the titles have been used in 3 different years, 64% in at least in 4 different year, 50% of all the titles been used at least 5 years, 36% 6 years, And all years, 7 years for 2014, 19% of the titles you use year after year. Okay, I'll skip this one here. Go straight to what if we would have gone with an ABA with Elsevier during all these years. As you can imagine, at the selection level, there can be an infinite number of ways you would select the titles. So I took 3 different scenarios, one being pretty obvious, most usage. And 2 other scenarios, one of them is the most expensive titles you would select and the least expensive. Why have I chosen that? Because I'm sure of, depending on any scenarios you'll be selecting, that I cannot have less than the number of most expensive titles and more than the least expensive. So my range would be, if we look at the first row there for 2014 to 2018, the EBA cost for McGill would have been $45,000 US for 5 years. And during that time in 2018, we at McGill had 3,516 titles that have been used at least once, which represents 64% of all the titles available in those collection years. And these 3,516 titles represent a list price of $748,722 US. So if I go to the right with the most expensive title, then I would been able to buy only 68 titles, which represent only 1.2% of all the titles available in those collection years. On the other spectrum, going with the least expensive, I would have been able to purchase 534 titles for close to 10% of all the titles available. And if you go with the most usage, then we would have had purchased only 133 titles for 2.4% of the titles available.
Louis, I see that you have some more slides, but you have spent your time, so you have to conclude.
Oh, already? Okay. I'll finish with this slide here right now because it's very similar scenarios that we have with Springer and Wiley. I just want to show this slide here with the first row here, 2014, 2018, the cost, and you see with the scenario selected, it gives you the average cost per title. $240 US for the most usage, $663 with the most expensive, and $84 with the least expensive. For all the different scenarios there, this represents a price difference between 6% to over 805% price difference from what we would have paid. We have paid at McGill with the all-in purchase. I'll go quickly here. Sorry, don't have time. I thought we had. And quickly also as well, with the decision you make on the selection will have an impact on the content, on the discipline, number of titles per discipline. It always have an impact. We can see here, we go to the least expensive, we have more arts titles than science titles. I'll finalize it right now, just conclude, sorry about that, in summary, yes, you can have probably better yearly cost, access cost with EBA because it will be normally less than buying whole packages of ebooks, but you have a better average cost per ebook, as I've shown you with the Elsevier from the big deal. With Spring was even more obvious, was going up to 5,000 times more expensive with EBA. Access to more content or subject, because depending on the publishers, some publishers are removing some collections which are not available, or collection years which are not available as part of the EBA. You have less time spent for selection of ebooks, of course, with buying the whole content, and less, of course, overall managing time spent, because it's a lot of time to manage in and out the title selection of EBA, removing the title from the catalog, adding the catalog and so forth. less frustrating for the users because you know the titles will be there year after year. You can have more flexibility in selecting titles by year and subject. Maybe EBA, yes, you can say that. No missing titles over time. Of course, it's if you purchase all titles, you're not gonna have that problem. No section bias in titles because you can be biased in selecting because you might see because of your institution is more, let's say, in science, and of course you have more science books than arts. But if you want to select more arts, then of course you go against the usage. So it's always quite touchy there, and no extra cost year after year, of course, with buying the big deal. So what I want to finally to say is, I'm not saying that EBA should not be used, but be careful depending on your size and what discipline you're covering. Be careful what you're doing because don't think about short term, but think about midterm and long term. The impact of the usage can be done because we cannot predict what's going to be used and how often it's going to be used. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis, for this very interesting presentation. We'll very quickly go over to Nandi Prince. Nandi is an assistant professor at New York City College of Technology, City University of New York, and she holds a Master of Library and Information Science from Queen's College and a Master of Arts in English Literature. And she's working with English as second language learners. And her presentation is how to embrace these learners' cultural perspectives and how to customize information literacy lessons for this group of learners. Now, Nandi, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Nandi Prince. Welcome to my presentation, Advancing Engagement Through Information Literacy. It's a great pleasure to get to join folks today and create a community over this virtual platform. I have been looking forward to this event for 2 years. It has been a long time coming. When I first learned my proposal was accepted, I was looking forward to being in Portugal. So it has been a real shift for me to do this in the online environment. I would like to start by telling you a bit about my college and the library information session I teach to English as second language learners. These students are enrolled in an immersive language program that meets 5 times a week. The initial steps to their career growth are learning English and moving on to acceptance into a degree program. I'll be focusing my presentation on my work with this group. I'm at an urban college located in downtown Brooklyn of New York City. Students commute. At a glance, I'd like to share some of the relevant demographic makeup so you get to know more about our enrollees and to add context to my presentation. 35% are born outside the United States, and this represents about 150 countries, so it's a really diverse group. 73% report language other than English spoken at home. 67% continuing students receive need-based aid. Here's an overview of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to start by briefly defining cultural humility and how it's applied to the information literacy session. Second, I'll talk about proficiency differences in the ESOL classroom and how to navigate those situations. Then I want to delve into how I foster an environment that is inclusive and connects to their experiences and provides a space that is welcoming for students. I want to address an important part of student success, which is learning to use the library and access collections. One can never cover everything in a one-shot session. I want to talk about other ways to structure the session and to continue supporting students long after their library class. Lastly, I'll talk about the importance of outreach and regular communication with faculty and students. Also, I will touch on collection priorities. I want to acknowledge some of the people that I have relied on to guide what I do, and you may find these works by these authors in my bibliography at the end. I feel it's important to take a comprehensive approach and to include experts from other disciplines and works that speak to and enhance what we do in library sessions. I stress the importance of lifelong learning. I look at the elements of the assignment that include experiences beyond the classroom. It is a chance to incorporate the experiences of leaders. Their triumphant experience fuels their curiosity. So, if you see on my slide here, I have a quote from Howard Schultz, and students really identify with the American dream. And this helps to engage them in those discussions. The American dream story has proven to be particularly engaging for this group of students. This is a chance for them to explore that person's story and to research further. So it really pulls them in. I want to start by defining the concept of cultural humility and why I choose to incorporate it into my information sessions. Cultural humility is a process of self-reflection, and it allows us to consider the other perspective, which is a good foundation for embracing the rich canvas of diversity, equity, and inclusion approaches. There are a few overlapping terms like cultural sensitivity and cultural competence. I like to use Hurley's work to try and explain this concept. I'm going to read an excerpt from Hurley's work. Cultural humility involves the ability to maintain an interpersonal stance that is other-oriented in relation to aspects of cultural identity that are most important to the other person. The ability to recognize the context in which interactions occur and a commitment to redress power imbalances and other structural issues to benefit all parties. Creating a culturally humble environment recognizes the challenges that impact various group identities and seek to counter them with purposeful actions that make space for others. Because there are many related and overlapping terms, I like to focus on Tagney's work from 2000, the description of one aspect of the cultural humility. So Tagney reads, a relatively low self-focus, a forgetting of the self, while recognizing that one is but part of the larger universe. Focusing on this aspect identified by Tagney distinguishes how I want to apply cultural humility in my classroom, and it blurs the other competing terms. I find the best structure for library faculty invited to teach a one-shot for ESOL classes is to have 2 or 3 class meetings. This may take the form of breaking up a long session, or if the schedule permits, to have multiple sessions. A sample session might be part 1. They define the scope of a topic, they try to narrow or widen, and we do a bit of concept mapping. In part 2, we might decide to identify credible and relevant sources. And then finally, in part 3, they're ready to move on to use information to fulfill their needs and how to synthesize. It's helpful to have the prompt, the activity, or the question visually displayed and to provide pictures to assist with comprehension. Again, this is very important when working with ESOL learners. I like to send the instructor the presentation so students may review it before the class. I also send tutorials for students to look at, and I send the questions that I'm interested in hearing their responses on. Students are aware of what I'm going to ask, and they feel more at ease knowing what to expect. The aim is to create a curiosity for credible information and the ability to use it for specific purposes. Retaining who they are as a part of the natural learning process while stressing self-care helps with removing those barriers that students learning a second language face. Earlier, I talked about the demographic of the average ESOL learner and the challenges that they face. Many of these students are working or they're struggling with getting employment. They have young children or they're grappling with assimilation. I make room for self-care to accommodate the challenges that they're facing and their needs. Some specifics that I practice are giving students a mental break. It is important to build this into sessions so students have a chance to reflect on what's happening. Silence is okay. I make room for each student to be heard. The potential to learn and develop skills of a competent researcher is limitless when librarians and students connect. In getting about finding sources, I like to take the approach that the past is part of that knowledge and try to have them incorporated as they start to pursue inquiry they want to explore. Having them sort out into two buckets what they know, their prior knowledge, and the second bucket, what they need to know, which I call the gap bucket. So the prior knowledge bucket and the gap bucket, which represents the knowledge that they're seeking to find, the new perspectives that they want, begins their journey. I like doing the assignment in this way by applying this visual because it's useful to the students. I often use a story from one of the leaders contained in the book Discover Your True North by Bill George. I find these work really well because the students can identify. For instance, the quote I showed earlier by Howard Schultz really engages students. They want to discuss how they identify with elements of his life. They like the triumph. I will remind them that these are generally nice things that the author has written about himself. But what about other knowledge that they may counter or other tensions or other controversies surrounding the particular author? So this brings them in more to seek and do further research and to look at those other perspectives. Right, because I think we can all agree that any CEO of a company will have some level of tension surrounding them. People are imperfect, and in teaching students, many highly visible individuals in leadership roles will often have some level of controversy that students can explore further. Having them explore more about individuals in leadership roles is a really great way of introducing evaluation. Students oftentimes don't realize that they're beginning to form a research strategy as they continue their line of inquiry. Because the American dream is a topic that they connect with, and it really pulls them in to learn more, and this really starts the process. Also, it inspires them to learn what they don't know about the individual, what they don't know about their company, what they don't know about their practices. I recommend the following actions to improve comprehension. I read the question slowly and I have it available on the projector, and I add visuals to help with comprehension. I share the slides with students before class. Oftentimes, there are students in the group uncomfortable with speaking in a second language. I spend a lot of time connecting and creating a welcoming space for students. So I'm capturing the things that came out in our session, and I do it in an animation format, and then I insert it into my pre-recorded presentation. And then I send that to their instructor. So essentially, I'm playing the role of the instructor and the students in the class, right? And that is the final video that the students get. So they get one prior to coming to the class, and they get one, the second video that they get is with the inserted animation of key points that came out in the class discussion, and I insert that. I want them to have a resource that they can use without fear of embarrassment. As far as assessment, I like to do assessment throughout the class, and I like to do it 1 or 2 times because this helps me to know if what I'm teaching, if it's landing, if students are having difficulties with it, and is useful in identifying what students do not understand. I'm not a big fan of asking students at the end of the class to discuss or talk about how the session went because at this point in time, I feel like students are ready to go, and I don't feel that the information that I learn is very useful. So I try to do it during the session. One of the initiatives I'm focusing on is enhancing existing library support services and implementing new ones to support ESOL faculty and their students. At my library, I'm in charge of the workshops, and I use this as a venue to teach one specific skill with interactive elements and to further support the library session. So generally, I will look at issues that students had trouble with, and I will plan a workshop that will follow up on that. All right, now I want to transition to talking about collections. Collections that are diverse and inclusive encourage and support the ESOL curriculum. Collection development is assembled for the users of the library physical and online spaces. They belong to the users. I approach building the ESOL collection thoughtfully to center on who I am acquiring for. It is important for liaison work to be continuous. Engaging with faculty and students and keeping abreast of their program changes help with knowing how to keep the collection inclusive and relevant to supporting the curriculum. Right, I want to quickly talk about outreach. I offer a group office hour that is a drop-in session, and students use it to help fill in things that they may have forgotten about the session. One of the things I do in my session is to assign 8 minutes for an online chat session. I encourage 1 or 2 groups to ask a question via the reference chat platform, and I log in and answer those questions. This helps to demystify the service and encourage students to use the online chat reference. Because again, I want students to use our resources continuously, not to just think about the library as an afterthought or to do it in that 12th hour when the assignment is due. A very big thanks for the planning committee for inviting me. Thank you very much for watching my presentation. I have included additional resources and my bibliography for those who would like to engage with the material further. I encourage you to email me. My email is on screen. It's nprince@citytech.cuny.edu. I'll be joining the Q&A and welcome your feedback. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
I have a lot of questions and comments to all the presentations, but session 3 has already started. So I just say thank you to the audience and a special thank to the presenters, Louis, Heather, and Nandi. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.